Well, good afternoon. Happy Friday, April 24th. Let's get right to it. So, the mortgage industry got news this week that two new scoring models for credit have been approved through FHA, and that Fannie and Freddie are continuing to test FICO 10T and something called Vantage Score. Now, these are alternatives to the scoring system that we've been using for the past several decades called the classic FICO model. And if you've never really pulled back the onion on this or peeled the onion on this, let me break it down for you. So TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax own the data, right? They own the data on credit trade lines, but they don't score anything, at least not under the classic model. That data is scored by FICO or Fair Isaac. Fair Isaac develops three credit scores based upon that data for each one of the bureaus. But FICO doesn't produce the actual credit report. FICO just scores the data, and then the actual credit report is produced downstream by resellers who provide that report to lenders. Now, each one of these entities, as you might imagine, wants a cut or wants money for what they're producing. And that cost has gone up and up and up, in some cases as much as 1,800% since the year 2020, not that long ago. And this has been an extreme burden on mortgage lenders and really on consumers who are unaware that they're paying more and more and more fees for the same credit report data. So how does this help? These two new credit reporting algorithms. These are called FICO 10T and Vantage Score 4.0. So we're basically breaking up what is essentially a monopoly into a duopoly of two different scoring models, FICO 10T and Vantage Score. But here's the catch. Vantage Score is actually owned by guess who? TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. That's right, the same entities that actually control the data. So now not only do they control the data, but they're now bringing the data to market for lenders to actually be able to purchase in a report. So you've got Vantage Score here that's controlled by the three credit bureaus. And then you've got FICO 10T, which is going to have its own model, but they still have to get the data from, you guessed it, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So it's a really interesting set of circumstances. The director of the FHFA, Bill Pulte, is promising reduced credit score expenses for lenders and consumers. We'll see if that certainly plays itself out or not. But ultimately, the big pickup here is supposed to be how the data is presented. Right now, classic FICO scores, classic FICO reports are a snapshot in time. You pull the credit report and it tells you, based upon exactly what's being reported in that instance, what your scores are. These two new models are supposed to have a much more trended or longer term vantage point of credit or consumer behavior. In other words, if you're the kind of person that pays their credit card off every single month, but at the time we pull your report, your balance is high, if we've got a history of you paying it off every single month, there'll be less impact to your score. There's also rules in place or implements in place to take into account rental history or utility history. So this will be really interesting to see how it plays out. But what is not being talked about are all of the underlying systems and software that are going to have to be updated for lenders, because these scoring models are different. And every single loan origination system or point of sale system or piece of software that's involved in a credit making or pricing decision in the mortgage industry is built around the classic FICO model. It's not built around Vantage Score or FICO 10T. In fact, if you check out this article from Housing Wire, we'll scroll down the page, and the director of the FHFA, Bill Pulte, added that the agency itself plans to introduce new pricing grids tailored to the updated models. If you don't know what he's talking about, this is what he's talking about. These are called loan level price adjustments, and they impact every single loan closed that is saleable to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And these credit scores over here are the classic FICO credit scores. And you can see, based upon down payment, credit score, maybe property type, maybe property occupancy, that you could have a variety of different pricing penalties towards your ultimate interest rate based upon this grid and these credit scores. Well, if these credit scores are changing, then this grid becomes obsolete. We need a new grid. And that's exactly what Director Pulte is talking about. That is not a small task in order to change all of these pricing penalties and make them applicable, whether you're using FICO 10T or you're using Vantage Score. Right now, it's just a handful of lenders beta testing these new credit scores nationwide, but the plan is to roll this out en masse to the lending community and ultimately to consumers as we move throughout the year. It's going to be fascinating to see how that plays itself out. And if you missed it, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, dropped its criminal probe of Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his handling of the renovations to the Federal Reserve Building, removing a hurdle for the confirmation of Kevin Warsh, who is the new Fed chairman. I'm going to scroll down the page here. The Department of Justice on Friday, that's today, dropped its criminal investigation of Fed Chair Powell, removing a major hurdle to the confirmation of Kevin Warsh to replace Jerome Powell on May the 15th, next month, just about 3 weeks away. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, the top federal prosecutor in D.C., said on a post that she is abandoning her probe. That's interesting because it was just this past Wednesday where she announced that she was committed to continuing the criminal probe, which had crippled the federal judges, which had been crippled by a federal judge's ruling that squashed subpoenas from her office issued to the Fed. And if you missed it, a North Carolina Republican Senator Thom Tillis had effectively put a hold on the confirmation of Kevin Warsh, said he was not going to confirm Kevin Warsh as the new Fed until this investigation was dropped. So Thom Tillis may have pulled the ultimate trump card, no pun intended, in order to get these charges dropped or the investigation dropped into Jerome Powell. Certainly, Jerome Powell will keep Thom Tillis on his Christmas card list moving forward, and it looks like we're going to have a new Fed chairman come May 15th by the name of Kevin Warsh. If I can be of any service to you over the weekend, don't hesitate to reach out, mark.milam@highlandmtg.com.